Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video we are going to be trying out the brand new LI HELBRAM on Challenger Hero Arena. So I thought I'd try them out on this tower, which is the first tower of Hero Arena, solely because I know it's the first tower, you know, and it's got a quite selection of quite irritating teams. It doesn't have Millam on here, but it does have the Gelta team, it does have this really irritating Masno team, and it does have a team that also has a damage cap as well, so I thought it'd be just a generally quite a decent place to test the characters. So the team we are running is basically full King and Diane support. So you've got King and Diane here with HP defense, you've got HELBRAM with HP defense, you've got Beta with HP defense, you've got Lance with HP defense. Lance does provide 5% base stats per unknown, per fairy if you do want a better fairy support, but the reason that I'll explain why I have Lance in a second. But if you do want a better fairy support, this Elaine here will provide you with more stats. You'll get a nice damage increase of 32%, as well as a 20% attack related stats. Lance only provides 20% basic stats. But the reason I'm using Lance is solely because of, once again, damage cap team, and then damage cap with Lolly Merlin. That is solely the reason. And he's actually pretty good. Even with no stacks, he can still power quite unreal damage. For card set, we are running the King and Diane Festival one that came out not long ago. That gives me a 7% base stat boost for applicable allies, being giants or fairies, which basically is the entire team, and decrease their damage taken by AOE skills by 10%, which is not bad. And yeah, let's get on with it. It's a pretty good team. It's like I saw them do 9 million with a level 1 skill, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, this is a pretty good team. I like this team. So the way to probably do this is she's got Ratamia, which means she's going to be the pain. So as long as King and Diana are on this side, let's check their turn 1 stats. Bear in mind this is turn 1. Nearly 1 million health. That's actually kind of crazy. They got nearly 1 million health. Bear in mind, these characters aren't seasonal, so they don't have the seasonal buff. And we're looking at, you know, 65% lifesteal, 210% crit chance, 343 crit damage, 180 crit defense, which is absurd, 302% pierce rate. That's because of Beta. Yeah, it's because of Beta's pierce rate effect, which is insane. But yeah, as you see, we use this effect, we apply Petrify, so it means we get a 50% damage increase with HELBRAM, because that's what his passive does, and we double AOE, and that wipes. Of course, we are getting attack lowered by Camilla, but she doesn't exist anymore, so that's fine. Casual 3 million damage. And then Lance clutches up. Boop. Dead. There you go. The reason why we have Lance on the team. He's good at cleaning up stuff like that. All the irritating characters that can somehow survive. But yeah, this team is really good. Their damage is crazy. Of course, once again, if you do want to do Legend difficult, you're probably going to switch out... You'll probably switch out Lance, if I had to guess, and you switch out Lance for Alpha. So you get like the 2-turn basically buffer, so you don't take any damage for 2 skills, which is pretty good. Once again, another quite bulky team, really. This is where Lance's damage really does show, to prove that, you know, even let's actually take a look at Lance's stats. So my Lance, bro, this is no link, 72,000 attack. This is HP defense Lance, by the way. Everyone on this team you see currently is HP defense. That's insane. You know, nearly 300% pierce rate. They've got, you know, he's got 330 crit damage, again, 210 crit chance. Such good stats. Once again, if you're wondering how and why my stats are so crazy, let me break it down. King and Diane provide, I believe, 15% basic stats to applicable allies. Beta provides 8% per applicable allies, so that's 24%. Lance provides 5% per applicable allies, so that's another 20%. HELBRAM's Relic provides 20% basic stats to fairies. And then HELBRAM's passive, I believe, provides about 28% attack-related stats. So if you add all of that up, that's the stats basically everyone on this team is getting. Of course, King and Diane, I believe they get 7% all stats per applicable ally, so that's an additional 28% all stats, which is crazy, by the way. I can just check with King and Diane. All I know is their stats are very high. This is this is a very bulky team, but thankfully this team is actually pretty good against them. Let me have a look. Quick peek. What are we working with passive wise? I believe, yeah, 7% all stats for each applicable ally. So it's decent. It's pretty decent. Which is why they're so strong. We just do the exact same thing. It's not really too bad. Once again, we do have to deal with the commandment, but the commandment isn't really too irritating. We have just lost pierce rate, but thankfully this skill isn't based on pierce rate. And we did 4.2 million to an extremely tanky team. And Lance, with one stack, did 729,000 damage. With one stack, by the way, of his passive. That's it. That's how strong, like, this team is. There's so much good synergy with this team. Do I feel like this team will be, like, good in PvP? Probably not. Solely because I feel like you need a third up front, so you probably have to go alpha up front. And it depends on actually who you want in back. You know, beta does provide the passive healing and a basic stat boost, which means your team will be, you know, decently tanky. But then you've got characters like HELBRAM, who has a 20% basic stat relic, so the only difference you really miss out is about 4% basic stats between beta and what's his name, HELBRAM, in terms of basic stats, but you get an additional 28% attack related stats from HELBRAM. But beta does have the passive healing, which is crazy. But it's like 15% diminished health, or it's like, I think, if it's 15% diminished health or max health. Yeah, this is where we're going to see some crazy numbers, so yeah. 10 million damage, anyone? This is HP defense, by the way. I'm going to keep saying this. This is a HP defense team. They're just absolutely annihilating everything. It's just pretty good. Of course, when you verse enemies like Mazno, it can get a little bit more ropey and a little more RNG based, because once again, if you trigger the full heal, he can still put out really good damage. Of course, we do have a damage cap with King of Diane, which does last, I believe, 1 turn. And it's a 50% damage cap, which isn't too bad. So we can always buff up here. And what we do is we do this, and then we just do this. As long as this doesn't trigger the heal, which it doesn't, because we missed a few crits. Thank you, Yuri, for actually being useful. She screws up her own team here, and the person who survives is Arthur. But yeah, this team is actually really good. And I have used it to replace my Sins team. So I've now, my current team array, so the first Tower Challenger is this very team, the second team is the Sung Jin Woo solo leveling team, and then my third team is my unknown team. That is how I do it. Now, because this team is actually really good. Of course, initially they were like, okay, Alpha's very good, but once again, she's a very selfish character. She doesn't provide anything for the team other than damage. Of course, her relic does provide the 50% max HP heal when she gets a kill, and a full cleanse, but that only happens twice. But anyway, that's it. Thank you for watching this video, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.